I keep writing about this stuff because I think other people notice the same things and don't say it out loud. So here's another one.
Let me be precise about this because imprecision is how this kind of thing falls apart under scrutiny. My grandmother, Elsa, passed 22 months ago at 81. She was sharp until very nearly the end, made her own tea every morning, phoned me on my birthday without being reminded. She was not a mysterious woman. She was a baker and a worrier, and she kept everything. The recipe box was one of the items specifically named in her informal notes. The handwritten list she left with her solicitor, asking who should get what. She wanted me to have it. She named me by full name. That detail matters. The box is a vintage biscuit tin, maybe 30 centimeters wide, printed with faded peonies. I have seen it on her kitchen shelf my entire life. Inside, 60-odd index cards in her handwriting, organized by card color, savory in cream, sweet in yellow, preserves in pale green. The whole system is very her. I went through every card twice in the first week because it felt like reading letters. Her handwriting tilts forward like she's always in a small hurry, and the cards for things she made often have a thumbprint of whatever she was working with in the corner, a rust smear of paprika, a ghost of butter. I noticed the lid fit badly in the second month. Not dramatically, just a millimeter of resistance, like something inside had shifted. I assumed a card had bent upward. When I went to fix it, I pressed down on the stack and felt the floor of the box flex. Not the tin floor, something above it. It took me 10 minutes and a butter knife to work out the false bottom. It was a rectangle of gray cardboard cut to fit, held in place by its own tension and by two small strips of electrical tape at the short ends. Beneath it, in the tin's actual base, sat a standard cassette tape. The shell was cream-colored, older manufacture, the kind with the small screws. No spine label. On the flat face, in blue biro in my grandmother's unmistakable forward-leaning hand, one word, listen. I should say here that my grandmother, to my knowledge, did not own a cassette player after about 2005. She migrated to CDs and then to an iPad she found confusing but persisted with. I do not know where or when she would have recorded anything onto cassette. I do not know who put the false bottom in a tin she owned for 60 years. I borrowed a portable player from my neighbor, the kind with foam earphones. I sat at my kitchen table on a Tuesday afternoon and pressed play. The recording begins with a few seconds of room tone, that particular tape hiss with a low hum underneath it, and then a woman's voice begins reading. She is reading the potato soup recipe. My grandmother's potato soup recipe, the one on the cream card third from the front, with a note at the bottom that says, "More white pepper than you think." The voice follows the card word for word, including that note, including the yield and the timing. She reads it the way you might read a technical document aloud for a colleague to transcribe. Steady pace, no warmth, every measurement enunciated. She is not my grandmother. I am certain of this. I have listened to the tape 9 times now. I know my grandmother's voice with the same unconscious certainty I know my own. This woman is younger, I estimate by 15 to 25 years. Her vowels are slightly different. Not a different accent exactly, but a different era of the same region. She continues through 4 more recipes: the poppy seed roll, the pickled cucumber, the Christmas biscuits, the lemon cake. All from the cards, all verbatim. The recording ends mid-sentence on the lemon cake. She has just said fold, do not beat, and then the tape runs out. I have cross-referenced every recipe against the cards. The voice makes no errors. She knew which card she was reading before she read it, because twice she corrects a phrasing that my grandmother had crossed out and revised in pencil. Reading the revision, not the original. She could see the cards. She was in the same room as the cards. There is a woman, identity unknown to me, who sat with my grandmother's recipe cards at some undetermined point in the past and read them into a tape recorder. My grandmother then hid the tape beneath a false floor she had constructed in the box and left the box specifically to me. I went back through everything I know about my grandmother's history, the years before she married, the years when my mother was small, the parts of her life I only know in the vague inherited way. She had a sister who died young. She had a period in her mid-30s that my mother describes only as difficult. She doesn't talk about it. There are almost no photographs of my grandmother between roughly 1968 and 1974. Last night I was listening to the tape again with my eyes closed, and I finally placed the cadence. My mother has a particular rhythm when she's reading something aloud and trying not to show that it matters to her. Slightly too even, slightly too controlled. She used it when she read my father's letters after he left. I was 9 and I stood in the hall and listened to her read them to herself in the kitchen, and I always remembered it as her voice with the feeling taken out. The woman on the tape reads exactly like that. I have not played the tape to my mother. I have the dates narrowed to a window where my mother would have been somewhere between 18 and 24, based on the tape format and the model of cassette shell I've been able to identify. I keep almost calling her. I keep not calling her. There is one more thing. The potato soup card, the one the voice reads first, has a thumbprint in the bottom right corner. I always assumed it was my grandmother's the way all the others are. I looked at it under a magnifying glass last week. The print is smaller than my grandmother's hands by a significant margin. It has been there my whole life. I just never looked. There's a part of this I haven't figured out how to ask about yet. Maybe I'm not sure I should. If you found something like this in someone else's belongings, I'd want to hear how you handled it.
If anything in this one rang familiar, I want to know. Tell me what you noticed in the comments. I read them.